So grades are the most important college admissions, as you probably expect. It's a long track record as opposed to a day, right? So it's what you've done in your academic performance, how serious you are. It's important for students, no matter where they're applying to school, that they're taking classes that are challenging, right? That you're taking honors or AP, whatever it happens to your school happens to have, or that you show that there's success in those, and that also shows that you're college ready, right? Beyond just the standardized test, and also showing a breadth of subjects is important as well. If you're capable of doing it, right? So science, math, humanities, and having that breadth is really important. Most universities consider how many how many AP classes you've taken as very important as well, because they give those are supposed to be college level work, and your performance in there often matters quite a bit. And they also consider how you've done over time, right? So if you did worse as a freshman and did better as a sophomore and better as a junior and then the best as a senior, colleges think that's a positive sign. So plan early, because obviously your GPA being pretty poor your freshman year can affect you throughout the rest of your high school career and then into your college admissions. But also it's never too late as well. So they want to see that improvement over time.
Something makes me want to jump up and down and scream, and I don't even have to apply. I mean, I feel like, wait a second, they're high school students, why do they have to do college level work? Like, it's so backwards, right? I mean, like, do college level work at college.
You would think so, yeah. So anyway, I can't make them change it. So. Cool. So this talks a little bit about what people are considering as well. I talked a little bit about this of taking classes that are more challenging, that are high level, considered college level, and then having representation across what are really the 5 core areas, what they're considering. So math, science, English, social studies, and a foreign language. Pretty much every university wants you to take a couple years of foreign language at whatever high school you happen to go to as a minimum. And not blowing off electives, because obviously those affect your GPA. Right? If you get a D in course, it counts just the same as a D in chemistry. Yeah.
I heard, I mean, obviously it still counts like your art and like gym grades,
Yeah.
but don't a lot of colleges recalculate your average and sort of take off the weights and the bump that the AP classes give you, because they're weighted more heavily, and then take off like art and music and gym and stuff like that.
So what you're saying is like if it's on like you're on a 4-point scale for the school, but you get for an A and AP chemistry you get a 5,
Yeah.
and they knock that down. Yeah, almost every admissions has a way of, and this gets a little into this, ranking what your scores actually mean, right? So look at high school attended, right? So if you go to like a private school that puts a lot of kids into that university, they'll know by and large what that GPA means and weigh that differently than if you go to some school they don't know in Topeka, Kansas, right? So they're trying to think like what do those scores actually mean, so they have formulas around your GPA and trying to guess like what does that actually mean. And oftentimes the things you're talking about are parts of those, but those are university specific, right? Where they might take out some of that stuff, they might flatten your GPA and make everything on a 4-point scale, and then they often will rank your high school and how difficult the work is there, right? So getting a 4.0 at a very prestigious high school that everyone knows is difficult is different than getting a 4.0 from some county high school in Kentucky where I went. They do consider that. Courses provided is also considered, meaning like if you go to some school that doesn't have a lot of AP courses, they know that, right? And you're taking the most challenging work you can, they'll consider that as well. And then these other things matter as well, socioeconomic status and personal incidents. Most of the time that comes out more in your essay than anything else, but it's a big part of how they consider it. Like for instance, if someone gets very ill their sophomore year and their grades are worse, the colleges will consider that in the application process. And then extracurricular activities, which matter as well. So I think this is super useful. One is like, must be well-rounded to get into college, and you must do everything and do it well. That's not really the case. It's more like you should be, if you're very good at one thing, that counts a lot more than doing a little bit of everything, right? So they want to see interest. So it's academics plus some interest in something else, right? And that can even be an academic interest. Like if you love math and you're on the math team and you excel at that, that's considered just the same as if you're on an athletic team and you excel at that in terms of admissions, outside if you're going to be an athlete, obviously. Otherwise, it's considered exactly the same. So it's more important to pursue something that you're passionate about and that you love, and that you're going to do a lot of and do well. So like being the president of a student organization is much better than being in 20 student organizations, and is definitely considered. But extracurriculars are considered part of it. They are going to want to see that you do more things than show up to school and go home. Just facts. I mean, they're ultimately trying to, if you think about what college admissions are doing, I should have actually led with this, is they're trying to think of reasons to deny you as opposed to accept you. Pretty much everywhere. It's like, what are the reasons we're not going to let this person in? This is kind of how the game of college admissions works at this point. Again, depth versus breadth. You want to see that depth is more important than breadth. And then there's lots of different types of extracurricular activities. So it's more like what interests you and do a lot of that. And it doesn't even have to be, I mean, we put these on things that are traditional, like what people consider, but it doesn't have to be that. Like if you went and started a company, right, you did that side, it can be pretty simple, like you were selling baseball cards. College would find that super interesting if you were into that and you did really well at that, right? Or you started not for profit. It doesn't have to be something just within your school that you do that's considered there, but something that you're passionate about, that do a lot of, and helps separate you out. I think I started with this of how are you unique? If that thing makes you unique in some way and you're really into it, that's super valuable for your admissions to colleges. A lot of the colleges, even the elite top level ones, have programs for students who are like non-traditional, right? And they've done something like really unusual. For instance, I know a guy who just graduated from Yale. He started there when he was 21. Yeah, no, a little bit older than that. Just finished a PhD program there actually, but went there for undergrad as well. And he was, he's from the middle. His family's from the Middle East. He was going to school at like University of Texas El Paso. His freshman year was 2001, and the CIA came and said, "Hey, we want you." Spoke all these different languages. We want you to join the CIA and be part of it after 9/11. And he went and did that for like 5 years. So he'd been at University of Texas El Paso, was the best school he got into. Did that for 5 years, lived all around the world, and then applied to a special program at Yale, and then graduated from Yale undergrad and has a PhD in, I think like public policy, something like that. I don't remember exactly, but like that's a perfect example. Like that's super unique about him. His test scores would not suggest he would go to Yale at all. But because he had this unique story, there's something about him, he stuck out from the other applicants to that. Now, not everyone's gonna have that story, but there's other ways to do that with your extracurriculars, in high school. Cool, so a little bit about why sports. I think it's all the stuff you'd expect. Just kind of skip through that, we're taking a little bit longer. Why arts?
I'm sorry, could you go for art versus?
Yeah, sure, I'm happy to, I have slow, just, we're
Right.
taking a lot of time, so I'm gonna.
Okay, we don't have to do it.
Timing, so take your time.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, of course. Do you have any specific questions about arts involvement and how that helps or hurts or?
No, I mean, that's where my child
Right.
leans, so I'm just curious to see what, theory is about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Community service is almost accepted by, or required by a lot of high schools to graduate at this point. Provides eligibility for National Honor Society. A lot of these societies matter more as check the box things than anything else. So you should, if you care about that, do it certainly. But they're really check the box. It's not like you're going to stick out because you're the only National Honor Society person applying to a college. And a good resume. It's all about like, are you excited about this stuff? Are you passionate about it? Have you excelled at it? No matter what you do, whether it's community service, arts, sports, or even hobbies outside of it, mountain hunt, whatever it happens to be. If you excel at it and you're passionate about it, that's the thing that matters most to universities. They want to see somebody who's going to be passionate about the work they do, right, and being at that university. Jobs and work experience, especially, they matter a lot more than people realize. Often there's a story of like, if someone's working a lot of hours during high school, there's often a reason. Universities consider that as well. The responsibility of having a job and excelling that is something universities consider also. So none of these things individually are necessary, but having something that does qualify in this extracurricular space is pretty necessary to get into, especially at more elite schools. International experience matters a fair amount as well. Partly because they want a global perspective. If you think what a university is trying to do is, one, is have people who are very talented, who are going to do the work there, who are then going to go and be successful later on in their life, but also create an atmosphere that is beneficial for all the students there, right? So having people who are unique in some way helps to do that, and having international experience certainly matters there as well. And there's lots of ways to get that. Family vacations actually count, especially if you write about them in an essay and how it changed your global perspective. You know, people often are like, well, how does like our family trip to Italy for 2 weeks matter? It does if you have that, if you write about it in a good way. Overseas jobs, obviously, study abroad, all that stuff matters as well. Yeah, so I think this is really important. So extracurriculars shouldn't ever affect your academic performance. Academic performance is paramount to your application. Don't inflate the number of hours of activities, because admissions counselors literally add that stuff up and think about, like, is that even possible? Like, someone puts, you know, I did 8,000 hours of community service in my sophomore year. Like, wait a minute, what? It doesn't matter. Like, that's an extreme example, but they certainly consider, like, whether the claim of the number of hours matters, and we'll consider, wow, that's not true. We're just gonna wipe that off. And don't aggrandize the activity as well, because they're just gonna cut through that, right? You gotta think, like, all these admissions counselors literally see hundreds to thousands of applications every year. They've mostly been doing this for a long time. Any lie that you think you can get away with, or any like exaggeration that you think you get away with, they've probably seen 55 times before, right, at a minimum. So just tell what it actually is. And like I've been saying the whole time, exhibit passion in doing that, right? It should never feel like, oh, I did this because my parents want to do this, or I want to get into college. If that's the case, like, it's probably not worth you to do it. As a student, it's not worth the time, because you'd be spending that time on academics or something you're actually passionate about, which will actually make your college application stronger. Cool. So just on the college application, so it's really important. One thing that we always do with students when they come to us is say, hey, let's talk about your academic performance. Let's talk about where you are in the SAT and ACT, and let's talk about what colleges you want to go to. What's your college list? You should always have. The lists have gotten a little bit more robust over the last few years, but a couple choices that are REIT schools, a handful that are schools that you're probabilistically going to get into that you'd be happy to get in to go to, and then a couple safety schools where, like, if all else fails, like, that'll be okay. And have that list is really important. Starting college visits early to make that list is important as well. The earlier the better, whether it's sophomore or junior year, so you start figuring out what are the actual scores I need to get, what is the profile of an average admitted student to that university look like? Do I have those things to do it? Do I want to go to that university? Do I have that feel? So then the Common App, which, you know, people I think have a love-hate relationship with at this point, everyone has to do it. Then there's supplementary applications, and then for a handful of universities, there's obviously interviews as well. Often regional interviews where they have, you know, a handful of alumni who interview all the applicants in that region. And all these things matter tremendously in the process. I would say it's still the same components we talked about before, but doing this early is one of the most important things. Students who do this stuff late, like, the time pressure and, like, the quality of what they're submitting then goes way down, because then it's just another thing they have to do in an ever-growing list of priorities. Yeah, so things to consider: early college visitations, when to start the Common App, end of your junior year. Some high schools start prepping their students for essays during their junior year. I think you should start thinking about topics and how you're going to talk about things, and if there's other things you want to add to that. I think, like, actually writing that essay, a good time is that the summer between junior and senior year, that you start actually, like, writing some, and having, depending on how many schools you're applying to, they might have different essay types. You might have to write 15, 20 essays. They often have common themes, and being like, okay, like, let's make sure I cover all these themes, and then I have the ability to cut and paste and rewrite and rework things where I need to. And then, yeah, some colleges, particularly state schools, don't use the Common App, so knowing which ones are on and which ones are not on, that is important as well. Cool. I think that's it. So, any other questions about that, the end stuff there?
I actually had one more comment on something. What is your name? It's such a great
Sam.
question. Sam. Sam, you said something really interesting, which, well, you acted out with frustration, sort of, about how convoluted this process is and how complicated it is. And I'll tell you, I really sympathize with you. I'm a mother, pregnant with my third, and I just have babies, and I can already see how much pressure are put on kids in preschool. And I would say from our company, we always, our company, we're a tutoring company, that's the service we provide. And so, in a way, we're sort of capitalizing on this very unfortunate, anxious experience that kids are forced to go through. But, it's all about your approach and your attitude. And so we talk a lot about the holistic student at our company, which is, I think, what attracts people to us. It's not for us just about the bottom line. I think results sort of come with a very dynamic, unique experience in the tutoring process. And I think, whether or not you explore using a tutor, it's all about your approach. And sort of the way we look at it is, when we, for example, pair, if your daughter worked with us and we were pairing her with a tutor, we'd look to make her experience one that was not really just tutoring focused, but mentorship focused, that really kind of taught her life lessons and engaged her with a role model who's been through these struggles, because these struggles have existed for years. And all of our tutors are current students or recent graduates, and so they can really empathize with that journey. So it's not, there's the generic approach that sort of is anxiety producing or inducing, and then there's the approach that, you kind of sit back and you let the results happen when a child is comfortable. We work with a 6-year-old. And it's tutoring, but it's not. We've actually developed a whole curriculum for her, which is part babysitting, part tutoring. Her mother is worried about her, sounding out her letters as well as her peers. This is not a joke. And so, we basically said you can go to Kumon, but expecting a student that young to sit through 60 minutes of tutoring is silly and a waste of money. How can we help her, but not create a very uncomfortable thing for a 6-year-old? And so we sat with our heads together and we said, let's make it fun. Let's find an experienced babysitter who's a Columbia student, who's also a great teacher, who has some level of experience teaching. And let's incorporate fun play and babysitting and a little bit of teaching and see if that works. And it's been successful. And so, again, I think it's all about your approach. I think the environment is what it is. And I often stomp my feet in frustration too. And it's all about your approach to the problem and how you solve it. So I just think that's something to keep in mind too. But I totally empathize with your frustration. And as someone who is part running a company that, like I said, in some ways needs students for this reason.
Well, sort of my other stock phrase is that, my kid happens to go to a public school, right? So, and a lot of people say, oh, it's such a good school, they get out, and then they come back from college and they say, oh, college is so easy. And I'm like, yeah, but you know what? I'm paying for college. Like, let them work a little in college. Like, let high school be a little more relaxed. It's just gotten so backloaded for these kids. It is what it is. We can't do anything about
Absolutely.
it. We do what we can on our end to sort of be like, I just keep saying, you don't have to go to college. And I'm serious, but I'm dead serious. Like,
Of
there's
course.
many paths in the world. And
There are.
this is not the be all and end all. Like, just find the stuff that interests you and keep doing it and do it to the best of your ability. But when they're in those pressure cooker places, it's
Absolutely.
just, there's so much outside that.
Well, I'll have to, if you give me your info, I'll send you a really good article on a headmaster who recently gave a speech that was so moving. And he said, essentially to parents, while you're all sitting in this room, asking me questions about standardized tests and grades, just know that one of the students, or several of the students amongst us, are unbelievable artists and skilled singers and amazing violin players. And they may not do as well on their standardized tests, but they're amazing at something. And it was a very moving speech, and it sort of reminds us all sometimes to take a step back and realize that, our children are our children. And then to your point, your name?
Jack.
Jack. You made a great point too about, you alluded to the socioeconomic piece of the puzzle, and that is in a lot of ways what a lot of the backlash towards standardized testing is about. It's about the fact that, especially with the old SAT, there was a lot of tutoring required, expensive tutoring, to do really well, for the most part, unless you were an outstanding, natural test taker. And I would say, that's why some colleges are really stepping away from that. But also going back to my original point, the environment currently is what it is, and things may change in the future. But our goal is sort of a similar goal that parents have, which is, let's ready our students to the best of our ability without contributing to the already very high level of anxiety. I think that should be everybody's goal, right? Get the best you can out of your student without burning them out.
There's somebody who recently told me that another person we know was paying $1,000 an hour
Oh, we know this.
for an SAT tutor.
Yes.
And all I said was, well, what can I sell them? Like, I knit, like, I can make an Afghan, like, here, it's $2,000,
It's very
worth it,
special.
it really is
Yeah.
worth it. So, right, and in New York, right, it's just.
And it feels unfair because the people who can pay that
Oh,
seem to be
it's
getting, you know, better care.
ridiculous, it's like, right, it's all.
It is frustrating. I don't disagree, and that's it.
I
That's
mean,
all.
our philosophy's always been, like, it is, the SAT, ACT, standardized tests, college applications are stressful. There's no way we're gonna make them not stressful for
Right.
students, right? But we don't wanna add to that stress, and we wanna be as efficient with our time as we possibly can be
Right.
for the students. So we're not about, hey, you should do 800 hours of tutoring with us. It's more like, where are you? What are your goals? What's a reasonable way to, and every student's different, right?
And you guys have been in business for a little while,
Yeah, so I've been tutoring for 15 years, and I'm running tutoring companies, kind of the sister company of this for a little over 5 years. And I have a long track record of improving student scores with reasonable amount of hours. There's one student I'm working with right now who started at 11:10. He's done 20 hours with me actually, and he's now, his last diagnostic, he's just over 1,400.
that's right.
Yeah, and that's pretty common, right? But he's doing a lot of work. Like, his goals are pretty aspirational. Like, he got 11:10, he's like, I want to go to like a top 30 school in the country. I'm like, well, listen, like, you're gonna have to kill yourself to do it. I'm happy to like help you do that and put together homework and do that. But like, you're not there right now. So let's be realistic. Are you willing to do that work? And he actually is. But if he's like, hey, I want to get 100 points more, so I want to go to that school, that would have been fine too, and the program would have been different. So it's more about customization, and each student, and making this pleasant and process.
And what
possible.
you do is all one-on-one, you don't do.
We do classes as well.
You do classes.
And they have a similar feel. Most of our classes are more focused on or geared towards school partnerships. So it's schools reaching out to us reaching out to schools and saying, you know, let us come in, let us, you know, understand your unique voice and the type of curriculum you're looking for your students, because every school is different. And then our senior management team sort of sits together and designs a very specific curriculum for that school. And that's obviously a much less expensive option than one-on-one tutoring. I would say one-on-one tutoring is probably the most effective for obvious reasons, and the bulk of our business. But you know, unfortunately or fortunately, it works. So fortunately for us, but you know, that's why, you know, the demand is there. It's just a matter, and the supply is really there. It's a matter of finding the right company who's not going to take advantage of you, who's going to really engage you through the process. So, and the other thing I would say is, you know, you should have your daughter, and you should also follow us on Facebook. We're on YouTube. All of this stuff is published on YouTube. What else are we on? Our website is super helpful. We have a blog. You know, it's loaded with good information, free information. So, you know, that's step one. We're really big on community and you know, bringing people in, and it, like I said, it's not just about the bottom line for us. So you have our information on these business cards. Ping us with questions. You know, we're happy to help.
Yeah, she's coming up on the PSAT, and I think we're gonna, the first one.
Great.
So, you know, she was sort of waffling, I said, well, you might as well take it,
Yeah.
it's not that expensive, and then you get some feedback to see
Yeah.
where you're at.
Absolutely.
She's gonna have to give that feedback one way or the other, so.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you, this is very
Thank you very
informative.
much.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming.
Any other questions from anybody else?
Feel free to take a diagnostic test on your way out for your daughter, for anyone who wants to take it. Have her do it in a quiet space, you know, time.
And these are relatively short, but these
Yeah.
are 40 minutes, which will give us a rough range of
Yeah.
where you score.
And then send it to us, and Mike will look it over, and if you want, have a talk with you about, you know, where he sees room for improvement.
Thank you.
Of course. Would you like one? Yeah. Okay, good. Let me give you this. This is, if you can scan it back and send it, that's the email address you'd send it to.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Of course. Such good questions. All of you.
Every year.
Yeah.
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 Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.
Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Yeah.
How are you? That's okay.
Some stuff, but like it'll all be up on YouTube.
Okay. You should definitely watch.
And we'll probably throw this presentation on our website at some point as well.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, if you have any questions, just reach out, okay?
Thanks for coming. Okay.